Hello, this is Big Ben in Hong Kong. Welcome to Meet the Entertainers on the Big Ben Show, and a belated Happy Easter. Everybody I know is very busy doing Easter shows. Not quite sure why Easter is so popular in Hong Kong. Not really part of the local Chinese culture, yet they love Easter here. I kind of think if you ask them what Easter means, they'll say, it's about the Easter bunny, he died and came back to life 3 days later. I don't know if they really get it, but hey, I'm not complaining. I've got a lot of Easter shows, and that's really, really good fun. I did 6 shows over the weekend in one shopping centre, and following talking to Kenneth Ng last week, who wears clown makeup for all his shows, I decided to wear clown makeup, and it was quite interesting actually. I stopped wearing clown makeup because it used to scare the kids at the birthday parties, and also it was just a way of cutting down on the preparation time if you've got lots of shows in one day. But wearing the clown makeup made me a little bit more intimidating, and I did 6 shows without a stage in a shopping centre, and it was only one show did I ever get any of the now ubiquitous interference by kids. In Hong Kong, they're a bit jaded, and they have a bit too many clown shows at their birthday parties, and they kind of think they can walk all over you. They have no respect, and when you're doing your show, they'll start coming up and taking things from your box and getting closer and closer, and it's very hard to actually perform. You're more like being a teacher. But maybe with the clown makeup on, I looked a little bit more intimidating, eh? Maybe. Well, today I think I'm going to give a mini podcast mainly about transport. Now, this might be just specific to me, because I've worked in places like Singapore and Hong Kong, where you might get 3 or 4 bookings in one day, and you need to race around from place to place during the single day. Let me talk to you about that. By the way, I'm just watching a street performance on a video. That's what you're hearing in the background. My friend, I'll put this link I'll put this link in the description to this episode. The great hat juggler in Japan. Pretty good stuff. Oh, by the way, all the old episodes of this podcast can be found on my website. So if you want to hear all the other entertainers I've interviewed, then just go to www.thebigbenshow.com. Alright, let's talk about transport. Alright, here's a tip that I've started doing. You probably know this yourself, don't you? But when you do a show, you want to have you want your whole costume to look shiny and smart, so you look really professional. And I found that I wear black leather shoes for most of my shows, and I find they were getting a bit scruffy too quickly. So now what I do, and you probably do this yourself, I only wear the shoes for the show. So when I'm travelling to the show, I wear some scruffy old shoes while I'm travelling, and my showtime shoes are in a little bag inside my suitcase. Also, when you're travelling to shows, and maybe you're going on the trains, for example, to a show, taking the metro or the MTR here in Hong Kong, and you're trying to get your bag downstairs. What I do is I always attach some rails to one side of my suitcase, the kind of rails that they used to put on skateboards or some kind of bar, and that means I can just slide my suitcase down any sets of stairs. It just slides straight down. I hold onto the handle to stop it sliding too fast. That could be a bit dangerous, and I let it just slide on down the stairs. That seems to work out pretty well. Also, if you have a unicycle in your show, and you're getting a bit tired of lugging around a 6-foot unicycle, because it's just exhausting to carry that from show to show. What you can do is, you can get a 12-inch unicycle. That's pretty much the smallest unicycle in the shops. Get a very long seat post so you can still ride it, and then get some quick release bolts, and you'll find that you can quickly take off the pedals, take off the seat post, and it'll fit inside your suitcase. So that's one less thing. That frees up your hands, doesn't it? You're just going to carry everything's in the suitcase now. You've got one hand on the suitcase and one hand on the unicycle. That's my other tip. This is for me, I like to wear as much costume as possible when I'm travelling, you know. I generally wear most of my clown suit while I'm travelling to the shows. And when I used to carry my unicycle in my other hand, people would see me, you know, with the unicycle and the clown costume, travelling to my shows, and they'd ask me, you know, can we have your name card? In fact, that's how I got my first show. I was riding a unicycle along the streets of Singapore, and someone came rushing out and said, hey, can you do a show in my shopping centre? So I think travelling in your costume is a possibility for endless self-promotion. Yeah? Endless self-promotion. This right, think about this. You've got lots of shows in one day and you're racing around, and actually most of the stress for me is not doing the show, it's worrying how I'm going to get to the next show. So often I would, when I was in Singapore, I used to book a London taxi, and I knew the driver, and I'd book him in advance, so I knew that, you know, he would be there waiting for me. And in Hong Kong there aren't so many London taxis, so in Hong Kong I booked a minivan where I know the driver, and he'll be waiting for me to take me to my next show. And the good thing about the London taxis and the minivan is you've got lots of space to sit next to your box, and while you're travelling to the next venue, you could be sorting out the box and repacking everything, ready for the next show. So by the time you get to your next show, your box is already preset, ready to, boom, do the next show. Also take a packed lunch and a drink, you know. Most of the shows are going to be at lunchtime, at dinner time, and you can't go all day, every day, without eating at the right time. So I would take a packed lunch and a drink to eat. There are other ways to race around the country. My friend Andy Comic has a scooter, and he's got the largest possible box that you can put on the back of his scooter. And somehow he manages to fit everything for his show in a box on the back of his scooter. And the scooter's great because you don't get stuck in traffic jams, you can just weave your way through it. And it means that he hasn't got to wait trying to find a taxi. He just drives straight to the next show. So pretty cool. He even fits his 12-inch unicycle dismantled inside the box on his little motor scooter. Amazing! Talking to Kenneth. Kenneth has a car, and he drives his car from venue to venue, and he asks for details and permission for car parking space in his contract. So when someone signs Kenneth up to do a show, in his contract he'll say, by the way, please tell me where I can park my car and arrange this for me, get me a permit or permission. So when he drives, he's got a place where he can park his car pretty near the show, and he does his show like that. But I don't drive myself around. I book a minivan or a London taxi if I'm super busy. That's what I do. Yeah, there's a lot of problems you can get when you're rushing around from show to show. One of the problems I get is I'm always cutting my fingers. Not so much now, but especially 10 years ago. I'd cut them on the box, the clips. I'm rushing around trying to close a box, grab something out of my magic box. I'd always be cutting my fingers. So I'd always carry a bunch of plasters, a bunch of band-aids, so I can repair my fingers throughout the day and stop bleeding all over my props. My friend John even used a 260 balloon, a broken one, just as a plaster on his finger. You know, his finger's bleeding. He puts the broken bit of the balloon, he puts his finger inside the balloon and wraps that bit around him. And he's got a sort of a ready-made plaster. Pretty cool, huh? When you're rushing, that's when you lose stuff. Almost every time I rush, I run the danger of leaving something behind at a venue. Well, how can you do this? Well, I think the most important thing for me is you've got to keep all your props, right? Yeah, am I right? you've got to keep all your props in one space, in one pile, in one box, in one place. So when you finish your show, even if it's quite messy, it's all in one area, and you can put it back in, just scoop it up, put it in your box and go. Of course, sometimes something will be far away from your stage area. Maybe you need an electrical socket for your sound system, or an electrical socket to pump in your balloon pump, and this will be far from the stage. Well, if it is far from the stage, you've really got to make a mental note that it's far away. How many times before I got the hang of this did I plug in my electric pump at the far end of the hall, and at the end of the show I'd pack everything up, I'd look around the stage, see nothing else was there, rush off, and only when I'm in a taxi or when I'm getting to the next show do I realise, oh no, I left my electrical pump behind. Once I left my electrical pump for my giant balloon axe behind, got to the next show, it wasn't there. What am I going to do to inflate the giant balloon? I used the blower from a bouncy castle. There's always a way. So I unplugged the bouncy castle and stretched my giant balloon over the blower and used the bouncy castle inflator to inflate a giant balloon. Just about worked. If a prop rolls off stage into the crowd, I'd recommend getting it straight away. Even if it slightly interrupts your show, make it part of the show, yeah? Because I used to, if something dropped off into the crowd, I used to just pick up another prop and carry on. But invariably, I'd forget by the end of the show that I'd dropped a prop in the crowd, and that prop would be gone forever. So if you do drop a prop during a show, I recommend picking it up straight away. And before you do leave a show, always make sure you have a quick look at every single corner and place that you've been to. You'd be surprised what you've forgotten to pick up after a show. When you get home, do a quick recheck. That's what I do. As soon as I get home, I unpack my bag and sort it through to see if there's anything I've forgotten, because worst comes to the worst, I can then get straight back into a taxi and rush back to the venue and pick up the prop that I've lost. But if you get home and you're repacking your bag, it means you're ready to go out and do a next show. You're sort of there, you know. If a phone call comes in, hey Ben, can you do a show in half an hour's time? Bang, your bag's already packed and off you go. I'd recommend getting a hands-free phone system, because as you're leaving a show, you might be calling your driver, you might be calling for a taxi, and if your hands are full carrying your bags and your suitcase and your unicycle, you haven't got a spare hand for another phone. So I'd have a hands-free phone set, so you can be talking to your driver or booking a driver as you come out of the venue. So by the time you come out of the venue, dragging all your suitcases, the car's waiting for you to race you off to your next place. And I've talked about this before, but the self-reloading stage box is quite useful. It's a box in a box, and when you get to your show, you take out the box, you take out the inner box, and that becomes your dumping box. And the first thing you use in your show, you put in your box, and that goes into the dumping box. And then by the end of the show, everything is in your dumping box, which you put a lid on, turn upside down, put back in your box, and boom, you're ready for the next show. I've explained that really badly. Don't worry, just go to my website, www.thebigbenshow.com, and there on the main page is a video showing the Big Ben self-reloading stage box, so you can check that out there. Here's another one. If you're doing a birthday party and you've got to rush to another show after that, what you can do is your last game in the birthday party can be the game where the kids mustn't move. It's a statue game, and no matter what I say, don't move. Okay, so if I say the show's over, come and get your prize, don't move. And then you get them all freezing, and you'll say things like, oh, the show's over, come and get your prize, and if they move, you go out and sit them down. and then you start packing up your box. Look, I'm really going. And you really try to convince them that the show is over. Yeah, I'm putting everything in the box. Look, the box is packed. I'm done. Look, I'm walking out of the door. I'm getting my taxi. The show's over. And if they move, you're out. And then eventually, of course, you're left with just one or two. And they can be the winners. And, hey, presto, your bags are already packed, ready to go for the next show. So you don't have to spend 10 minutes after the show packing everything up. You've actually packed up during the show. Oh, here is another tip. Perhaps the final tip today. So you've finished your busy weekend. Somehow you've managed to get to every single show on time. You've done it. You get home, it's like Sunday, it's 10 p.m. on a Sunday, and you go, oh, I've done it, I'm free. I got through the weekend and the stress is all gone. And you go to bed, and you're in bed, and at 11 a.m. the next morning on a Monday, the phone rings, you pick it up. Hello, Ben, are you on your way for my show? Ben, are you here? Are you coming? And oh man, you realise that you had a Monday morning show and you'd forgotten all about it because you don't normally have a show on a Monday. Here's my tip. I used to have this problem because I was very, very busy in Singapore. You'd have like 6 shows in one day, sometimes on a Sunday, and you'd finish the shows and you'd be like exhausted. And then this happened on the next Monday morning. I did get a call at about 11 a.m. Ben, are you here for my birthday party? And I was like, oh God, I'm coming. So I rushed to the party. I was about 45 minutes late, of course. I did the party. I was so embarrassed. Terrible. So I go home, and about 2 p.m. I'm still exhausted, relaxing. At least it's over. The phone rings again. That day I had another party. I had a 2 p.m. party on the Monday as well. Okay, here's how to solve this problem. You've got to always look at your diary before you go to bed. In fact, what I do is I write down every week on a big sheet of A4 paper all the week shows up until Sunday. And then I also write in block capitals, upcoming, so that if there's a show on the Monday or the Tuesday, I write that down on that piece of paper. And before I go to bed every day, I will look at that paper. So if it's a Tuesday night, I'll look at it and see what's happening on Wednesday, just before I go to bed. And then, very important, if it's a Sunday, I'll look at it, and then I'll see if there's a show, if there is that occasional show on the Monday. And hopefully, well, so far so good, haven't missed it. And, here's one more point. Finally, having that big sheet of paper with my week shows on it, stuck on the wall next to my computer in my office. That's also quite useful because you might get someone calling and saying, oh, are you free this Saturday at 3 p.m? And instantly you can look at that piece of paper and say, yes, I am free, or no, I'm not free. Because, your diaries can get quite complicated, and often your diary will be on your phone, right? So if someone's calling you and they say, are you free at 3 p.m? You've got to take the phone away from your ear, start fiddling through the diary, start looking at it, and sometimes your diaries can be complicated, like 3 p.m, confirmed, unconfirmed, need to call a client to check if you're available, and that can be, and you can lose a booking, you might say, the sensible thing to do would be to say, let me call you back in 3 or 4 minutes while I check through my diary, but they might not want to wait 3 or 4 minutes, they might want to call somebody else to do the show. So this way, they call you, are you free at 3 p.m? You just look to your right, there on the wall, in big bold letters, it will say what your shows are this coming Saturday at 3 p.m, and you can say straight away, without a pause, yep, I'm free, or no, I'm not available, sorry. So, that's some tips on transport. Oh yeah, if you do have any of your own tips on transport, or you want to get in contact with me, just email me at ben@thebigbenshow.com. Oh yeah, and finally, if anybody else wants to be interviewed by me, give me a call, alright? ben@thebigbenshow.com, that's my email. Next week, hopefully the entertainers will be free to chat to me. I'm looking at talking to Kieran Love or maybe Matt Coombs, who plays who's Rumpel, the clown, or maybe Jose Almenarez, a magician working here in Hong Kong. So take care. Talk to you again soon. This guy's great at hat tricks. I love it.